The moment I stepped onto the mezzanine, she screamed. Not loudly. More like a breathless gasp someone lets out when they see a car accident unfolding but can't look away. Then her wine glass slipped from her hand. Then her knees buckled. And then she cried. That wasn't supposed to happen. See, this wasn't some romantic ambush or last-ditch confession. This was a trap. One I spent the last 11 months building. And now she was crumbling right on schedule. Let me be clear. I didn't come here for closure. I came for the sound her world would make when it cracked in half. You ever have someone make you feel invisible for so long, you start to believe you deserve it? That was my life. Years of being edited out of every conversation, every photo, every dinner plan. I wasn't her husband. I was the guy who handled things. I folded laundry while she FaceTimed other people. I meal prepped for her hikes I wasn't invited to. I rubbed her back the night she came home late and cried, not realizing those weren't my tears to soothe. And then I disappeared. Not in the poetic way. I vanished. Took my name off the lease. Shut off my phone. Changed my legal address. My therapist said I was processing. I was plotting. I don't work in tech. Not anymore. The event wasn't even mine. I don't work in that world anymore. The Disrupt Forward 2025 mixer at the Wilmore Hotel? Yeah, I bought my way in. Fake badge. Rented a custom suit that screamed, I sold something to Google once. I even got business cards printed. Noah Redner. Vertical strategist. Whatever that means. I stood by the champagne fountain for 27 minutes before I saw her. Jadey. Hair lighter. Skin paler. Smile tighter. She was talking to someone, tall, younger, the type who probably says synergy unironically. Then her eyes slid past him and landed on me. That's when it started. Her collapse was beautiful in a way I'm ashamed to admit. I know how that sounds. I know. But when someone's wreckage is the exact shape of the pain they caused you, it hits different. The tears, the trembling hands, the panic written across her face like she just saw a ghost and knew it came for her. I watched her break, and for the first time in years, I felt seen. But that's not the twist. Here's what I didn't expect. She started whispering something. Again and again. I couldn't hear it, so I moved closer, thinking maybe it was guilt, an apology, anything. But what she whispered, you're not supposed to be here. You're not real. You're not real. She wasn't crying because she saw me. She was crying because she thought I was dead. And that, dear Reddit, is when I realized. Someone told her I was. She wasn't crying because she felt guilty. She wasn't crying because she missed me. She was crying because she genuinely believed I was dead. And for a second, one brief, cold-blooded second, I almost wanted to laugh. Instead, I just stood there, blinking like some awkward guest who had wandered into the wrong ballroom. A few people glanced over. Someone picked up her broken glass from the floor. The guy she was with, maybe a boyfriend, maybe just another minter, gently touched her shoulder and asked, do you need to step out? She didn't answer. Her eyes were glued to me like I was a hallucination she didn't trust. And to her credit, she wasn't wrong. I wasn't supposed to be real anymore. But I had a reason for coming back. I wasn't hiding for the drama. I was hiding because I was erased. When I left, I didn't make noise. I didn't scream, didn't break things, didn't even pack loudly. I left behind my clothes, my toothbrush, my PlayStation. She could keep it all. She already had what mattered, my peace. She had taken it, little by little. Every moment she told me I was too intense. Every time she rolled her eyes when I got excited about some nerdy project. Every time she came home late from client dinners, with a phone battery mysteriously dead. But it wasn't the cheating that killed me. No, it was what happened after I confronted her, when I begged her to just tell me the truth. Just say it. And she looked me straight in the face and said, nothing happened. But if it did, you'd still deserve it. I don't remember much after that. I blacked out emotionally. I remember packing a duffel bag. I remember the bus terminal lights flickering. And I remember promising myself, she will never see me again. Until one day, I got curious. It was 11 months ago. I hadn't Googled her name since I left, hadn't checked social media, hadn't even opened the old Dropbox we used to share. But then, for no reason at all, like muscle memory from a past life, I searched her name on LinkedIn. She was glowing. New promotion, new city, new thought leader, posts with fake deep quotes about growth and resilience. And then, nestled between some faux inspirational TEDx link and a picture of a team dinner in Chicago, I saw a photo. Her and Gareth, smiling, wearing black, standing in front of a poster with my face on it. Except the face wasn't really mine. It was a filtered version of an old headshot, part of some nonprofit mental health gala fundraiser she was promoting. The caption? Honoring the memory of someone who taught me patience and love and quiet strength. Gone, but never forgotten. I didn't know whether to scream or throw up. She turned me into a dead ex-husband for clout. Imagine being so irrelevant to someone's life that they'd rather pretend you're dead than admit you left. I stared at that photo for hours. At the comments section full of "so sorry for your lost red heart," and "he seemed like such a kind soul." At her response to someone asking what happened. It was sudden. "We're still healing." Still healing. From what? Me not staying dead enough. I should have let it go. I should have moved on. But then I thought, what if I didn't? What if I came back, not with rage, not with drama, but just by being seen? Would she crumble? So I built the perfect storm. I spent months figuring out how to insert myself into her orbit. I moved to the city she worked in. Switched jobs. Changed my name. I didn't even need to forge anything. People in tech barely remember names anyway. I attended every small event where she might show up. Always in the corner, always watching. I waited. Waited for the perfect event. The perfect timing. The perfect entrance. And last night, I found it. Disrupt Forward 2025. VIP Mixer. She was speaking on a panel about navigating adversity and personal transformation in leadership. I signed up the moment I saw her name. Reserved a front row seat. I wore the same gray coat she once said made me look like a ghost. I didn't cut my hair. I let the beard grow. I wanted her to feel the passage of time, to see it in my face. And when she walked into the room and saw me standing by the bar, everything shattered. She saw a man she buried. But the dead don't cry. Only the guilty do. I didn't go up to her. I didn't say her name. I didn't smile. I didn't blink. I just stood there, still and cold, and watched as she crumbled in real time, in front of a sea of professionals and colleagues. People who looked at her like she was some inspirational phoenix, rising from invisible ashes. What ashes? I wasn't dead. I was right there, breathing, watching. Not a ghost, a witness. I thought she might run. Instead, she froze. People started whispering. Her plus one, a jittery little guy in suede shoes who looked like he'd panic if the Wi-Fi went out, tried ushering her toward the restroom. But she couldn't move. She wasn't just shocked. She was terrified. And that told me everything I needed to know. She hadn't just let people think I was dead. She needed me to be. And suddenly, I wasn't sure this was revenge anymore. I expected tears. I expected awkwardness. I expected some poetic, slow motion, "I never stopped loving you" scene. But this wasn't that. Her reaction wasn't grief. It wasn't guilt. It was fear. She looked at me like I was holding something she didn't want the world to see. And the moment I saw that, something changed in my chest. Something shifted. Because for 3 years, I thought she broke me to chase passion. I thought she traded me in for someone who made her feel younger, wilder, more alive. But what if she hadn't betrayed me just to be free? What if she did it to hide something worse? And what if my disappearance made it easier? I left the event early. But the past wouldn't leave me alone. I didn't say a word to her. Not one. I turned around, walked out past the coat check, ignored the confused glances, and let the door close behind me. My hands were shaking by the time I reached the parking garage. I sat in my car for 45 minutes, staring at the steering wheel. No music. No movement. Just me and this growing weight behind my eyes, in my chest, in my throat. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was haunted. Because here's something I never told anyone. There was money missing when I left. And it wasn't accidental. 10 days before I vanished, I found a transfer. I had logged into our shared checking account to move money into my travel fund. My real one. The one she didn't know existed. And I noticed something strange. A wire transfer. $17,200. Gone. Sent to an account I didn't recognize. Not a business. Not a loan. Just a generic name. K. Dolman. When I asked her about it that night, she blinked twice, smiled, and said, "It was for a down payment on something I can't tell you about yet. Just trust me." I didn't. But I also didn't push. Because by then, I'd learned. Every time I asked questions, I lost more of her. So I let it go. But I wrote the number down. And I remembered the name. Last night, after leaving the event, I dug it up. Logged in using the credentials I swore I'd never touch again. I didn't even know if the account still worked. But it did. The name had changed. K. Dahlman no longer appeared on the record. Now it just read, inactive, legally restricted. There was no balance history, no recipient metadata, no open trail. Just a note in fine print. Access revoked by court order. For details, contact administrator via sealed inquiry. I didn't understand any of it, but I knew two things. She took money from our account before I left. That money went somewhere it shouldn't have. And someone, maybe her, made sure it got buried. And now that I was no longer dead, I was going to start digging. Because maybe, just maybe, I didn't leave her. Maybe she got rid of me. I didn't sleep. Not even for a minute. I sat in the kitchen of my rented duplex, staring at my laptop screen like it owed me an explanation. Every so often, I'd refresh the archived bank logs. Nothing changed. Same blank record, same court-sealed note, same digital dead end. But the more I stared at it, the clearer it became. That money wasn't just stolen. It was hidden, deliberately. And whatever was behind it, someone made sure I'd never find out. Except now I was alive again. And I had nothing but time and spite. I started calling old contacts, the ones I was supposed to cut off. There were rules when I vanished. My therapist had made me write them down. No contact with former friends. No reaching out to her family. No curiosity. No backsliding. Well, so much for that. I messaged my old friend Ellis. We hadn't talked in 3 years, and he'd always been more her friend than mine. But I remembered one thing. He used to work in corporate compliance. And if anyone could make sense of what legally restricted financial transfer actually meant, it was him. To my surprise, he replied within minutes. We set a time to talk the next morning. Before I even asked, his first question was, "Why are you messaging me?" I thought you were gone. I didn't answer that. I just sent him a redacted screenshot of the account activity. His reply came 2 minutes later. "You need to get a lawyer." Immediately. But I didn't want a lawyer. I wanted the truth first. I told him I didn't need legal advice. I needed to know what kind of thing would trigger a court-sealed record inside a private joint account. His typing paused, then continued, then paused again. Finally, he said, "This kind of seal isn't financial fraud. It's criminal protection, like witness shielding, or legal immunity, or restraining order evidence." I felt my blood run cold. Wait, restraining order? Against who? I had never raised a hand, never shouted, never threatened her. Not once in 7 years. I was a pushover, if anything. The guy who apologized for speaking too loud during arguments. I once cried because I forgot our anniversary by 1 day. And now I was learning that something about me, or what she said about me, had triggered legal protections. I asked Ellis directly, was there a restraining order against me? He didn't answer for 4 minutes. Then he finally typed, "I'll call you. You're not going to like this." When the call came, everything shifted. Ellis sounded uncomfortable, cautious, like someone who didn't want to get involved but also didn't want to lie. He told me that a year after I disappeared, there had been a civil filing in the county we used to live in. It wasn't public, but certain industry workers, like Ellis, had access to sealed case indexes for internal screenings. According to what he saw, there was a temporary restraining order issued under my name, but it wasn't filed by her. It was filed by a man I'd never heard of, Caleb Dahlman. The same name on the original $17,200 wire transfer. That was the moment I knew I hadn't been paranoid. I hadn't been crazy. I hadn't just been left. I'd been written out. And someone else had helped her do it. But here's the twist. I was never served. No officer ever came to my door. No letter arrived. No summons. I was never contacted, never warned, never told I'd been accused of anything. Because by the time it happened, I was already gone. Which raised a terrifying question. Did she file it after I left, just to make sure I stayed gone? Ellis wouldn't speculate, but he gave me one last breadcrumb. He told me Caleb Dahlman used to work for a private risk management firm. Not law enforcement, something more discreet. The kind of company that quietly handles sensitive people problems for wealthy clients. He paused. Then he said, "Whatever happened between you and her, I don't think you ever knew the full story. I think she kept you in the dark on purpose." And just like that, the room started spinning. Because up until that point, I thought this was just about cheating, betrayal, a broken marriage. But now I wasn't so sure. Maybe I had stumbled into something far bigger than an affair, something dangerous. And the worst part? I still loved her. I hated that I did. But I did. For the rest of that night, I sat in the dark and tried to understand how the hell I'd gone from being a husband who bought her oat milk on the way home to being the shadow of a man who apparently needed legal barriers placed between him and people he'd never met. I kept saying the name over and over in my head. Caleb Dahlman. Caleb Dahlman. Caleb freaking Dahlman. That name meant nothing to me. I had never met him, never emailed him, never even heard it in passing. But clearly, he'd known me. Or at least, he knew of me. Enough to file a legal claim with my name on it. And if he worked for a private firm that handled delicate issues for high-level clients, like Ellis suggested, then this wasn't about protecting anyone from me. This was about erasing me, sanitizing me. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a purge. I couldn't let it go anymore. I had to see her again, alone. You'd think after seeing her break down in public, after watching mascara melt off her face like war paint in the rain, I'd be satisfied. But I wasn't. Because now, I wasn't even sure what game we were playing. Had she done this to protect herself from me? Or had she done it to protect herself from him? Maybe both. Either way, I needed answers. And I wasn't going to get them from legal records or old texts anymore. I needed to look her in the eye, one-on-one. So I found her. Again. Was it stalking? Probably. Do I care? Not even a little. I found her new apartment building. One of those newer, glass-heavy complexes on the edge of downtown. Secure lobby, rooftop gym, ironic mural in the parking garage. Gentrified to hell. She always liked places that looked like they were trying to be something else. I didn't go up. I wasn't trying to get arrested. Not yet, anyway. I just waited. And then, as if the universe had a sixth sense of timing, she walked out. She came out alone. Hoodie, coffee cup, headphones in, walking fast like the world was chasing her. She didn't see me across the street. I stayed hidden behind a half-dead tree near a scooter rack, watched her head down the block, turn the corner, and vanish into traffic. It hit me harder than I expected, because for a second, a single, terrible second, I missed her. Not the real her. Not the lying, cold, emotionally remote stranger I married, but the version of her I built in my head. The girl who used to bring me pineapple yogurt and call me her favorite weirdo. The one who painted her nails while humming Paramore and said I looked like an indie movie character. That version was dead, but I wasn't. And the longer I stood there, the more I realized. She wasn't just hiding something. She was hiding from something. I found Caleb's name again, but not where I expected. Later that night, I searched every corner of the internet for Caleb Dahlman. It was harder than expected. His online presence had been scrubbed. No social media, no LinkedIn, no photos. But then I found something buried in a small legal database connected to old vendor licenses. Caleb Dahlman was once listed as a compliance officer for a luxury wellness resort 3 states away. The kind of place where crypto bros went to sweat out their anxiety and celebrities unplugged for 10 grand a week. The resort was shut down last year after an investigative piece exposed hush payments, abuse allegations, and several cases of identity manipulation involving clients and staff. I read the article twice, then a third time, and then I found it. In the middle of the article, almost a throwaway sentence, was a reference to a married couple from Minnesota who had allegedly created a ghost identity scheme to avoid pending civil litigation. No names were listed, just a timeline. The same month I disappeared. My heart stopped. I wasn't her husband. I was the guy she used as a paper trail. Think about it. She files for a restraining order after I vanish. She fakes a grieving widow narrative to friends and co-workers. Then she wires money to a man tied to identity suppression. And finally, she reinvents herself in a new city, suddenly single, suddenly enlightened, suddenly a thought leader. It wasn't heartbreak. It wasn't grief. It was a strategy. And I had played my part perfectly. Quiet, absent, dead on arrival. Until now. I didn't sleep. Again. I sat up rereading every word of the expose about the luxury wellness resort, my screen glowing at 4:38 a.m., like it was mocking me. My coffee had gone cold. My stomach was in knots. My back was sore. And still, I couldn't stop digging. Because somewhere in all those vague phrases, ghost identity scheme, civil litigation avoidance, former employee anonymity, was the truth. The truth I had been too naive, too numb, or too spineless to see when it was all happening in real time. I wasn't a husband to her. I was a character in her exit plan. A name she could slap on an old chapter so she could move on and pretend the wreckage didn't exist. And that meant one horrifying thing. I wasn't just collateral. I was intentional. That's when I did something I swore I'd never do again. I used the last string I had left. I called my brother. We hadn't spoken since I vanished. He was the only person I left a note for. Just a scrap of handwriting tucked into his glove box with my spare keys and the words, "Don't look for me. I'm not okay, and I don't want to be found." He respected it. Never called. Never posted. Never reached out. But he didn't forget me. When I dialed his number, I expected it to ring forever. But he picked up halfway through the first tone. "Deke." That's all he said. I couldn't respond at first. My voice cracked just trying to speak. I wanted to say sorry. I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to ask if Mom still used the same lemon soap. Instead, I asked him the one thing that had haunted me since reading the article. Did Jory ever come by? After I left? Silence. Then a slow inhale. Yeah, once. About a year after you vanished. I gripped the phone so hard it clicked. What he told me changed everything. He said she showed up at his apartment. Unexpected, uninvited. Wearing all black, like she was coming from a funeral. She brought a bottle of wine. Said she wanted closure. Said she just wanted to say goodbye. He remembered that she cried. Told him I had left her broken. Said I'd been paranoid, unstable, erratic in the final months. That I'd withdrawn. That she tried everything she could. That she wasn't angry, just heartbroken. And then she asked for something strange. She asked if he'd sign a letter. Not a legal document. Just a personal witness statement, supposedly to help her emotionally process everything. A letter confirming that she had tried reaching out to me. That she'd shown grace. That she hadn't been cruel. He didn't sign it. Said it felt off. But that wasn't the part that made me feel sick. The part that made me grip the table and stare at the wall was this. She called you a ghost. Not metaphorically. Literally. She said, it's like he never existed. That's the hardest part. She wasn't mourning me. She was marketing my absence. I decided I couldn't sit in the shadows anymore. The next day, I made a decision I hadn't let myself consider until that moment. I booked a session with the one person who would have access to records she couldn't erase, a retired family lawyer who once helped us file our prenup. He was a crusty old bastard who never liked her to begin with. Told me, just before our wedding, "You're marrying a woman who likes to leave before the curtain drops." I always thought he was being dramatic. Turns out, he was being generous. He agreed to meet me. Off the books, cash only, no paper trail. We sat in the back of a dying diner that smelled like old sugar and burnt soup. I laid it all out. The wire transfer, the sealed records, the restraining order, the fake mourning, the corporate guy with a reputation for burying reputations. He said one thing I'll never forget. She didn't just want you gone. She needed you to be a closed tab. No redirect. No back button. Because if anyone looked close enough, they'd find out her narrative was curated. I asked him what to do. He smirked. If she wants you to stay a ghost, your only play now is to haunt her. So that's what I'm going to do. No threats. No violence. Nothing stupid. Nothing illegal. Just a slow, steady unraveling of her perfect little image. Her influencer posts. Her clean bio. Her TEDx talks about resilience. What happens when someone shows up in the comment section? What happens when a forgotten email chain gets leaked to the press? What happens when the version of you that you buried shows up alive? Let's see how much she loves the spotlight when it stops flattering her. I didn't plan to go through her garbage. Not literally, anyway. But obsession has a funny way of making you do things you swore you'd never do. I had already spent weeks peeling back her fake history, decrypting sealed court records, tracking private transactions, and haunting the ghost of a marriage that never got a proper burial. So yeah, when I saw her take out the trash that morning, dressed in all black like she was still playing widow for the world, I waited exactly 7 minutes after she went back inside. Then I opened the lid. I don't even know what I was looking for. Some part of me just hoped there'd be something. A receipt, a torn envelope, a note. Proof that she still thought about me. Proof that I wasn't just a prop she used to stage her escape. I expected banana peels and oat milk cartons and trendy meal kit boxes. What I didn't expect was a manila folder. Bent at the edges. Water damaged. Unlabeled. But full. It wasn't hers. It was mine. The folder was full of printed documents. Some old. Some recent. All about me. Emails I forgot I sent. Screenshots of my old social media accounts. A copy of my lease from 2018. A DMV registration. My resume. Even my Spotify profile. She had built a dossier on me. But the strangest part? She didn't annotate any of it. No notes. No markings. Just clean, cold data. Like she was collecting it. Or preserving it. I scanned the dates. Several of the printouts were recent. Weeks old. That meant she hadn't forgotten me. She hadn't moved on. She was still watching me. Tracking me. Studying me like I was her ghost. Suddenly it hit me. What if she didn't fake my death to forget me? What if she faked it to keep me under control? I took it home. And I went looking for the pattern. I spread everything out across my living room floor. It looked like a scene from one of those crime dramas where the wall has red string and thumbtacks. But I didn't need red string. The timeline was right in front of me. There were 3 waves. The first pile was from before I vanished. Old pay stubs, blog posts, receipts. Stuff she could have gathered during our marriage. The second pile was from about a year after. Newspaper clippings, blurry photos of places I had been seen, including one I'm sure was from when I visited a hardware store 2 towns over. And the third pile was all from the past 2 months. That last pile chilled me, because it contained the pass I used to get into the Disrupt Forward event. The one I forged. The one no one was supposed to know about. But somehow she had it. That meant she didn't just see me at that event by accident. She expected me. And she wasn't just afraid. She staged the breakdown. Everything about that night was a performance. The crying. The shaking. The dropped wine glass. Her boyfriend's confusion. It wasn't chaos. It was choreography. A show for the people around her. A way to send a message to someone. Maybe me. Maybe Caleb. Maybe someone else entirely. But here's the thing. If she staged it, then she already knew I was alive. Which meant all the people who thought I was dead, her coworkers, her followers, maybe even her family, they weren't in on it. She was living 2 lives. And I had just stepped into the one she couldn't control. So I made a decision. I was done hiding. Done snooping. Done waiting for some cosmic justice to come tap her on the shoulder. If she wanted control, I'd give her the opposite. I booked a venue. Not a big one. Just a private event space downtown. Quiet. Classy. The kind of place where she'd be too embarrassed to make a scene. Again. Then I sent her an invitation. A plain white envelope. No return address. Inside was a single line. You buried me alive. Let's talk. No threats. No anger. Just one last chance to tell the truth before I set the world on fire. I gave her a time. One night only. No audience. Just her, me, and a room full of silence. And she showed up. Wearing the same perfume she wore the night she told me I was boring. Hair curled like it was meant for war. And eyes that said one thing, and one thing only. You weren't supposed to come back. She walked into the room like she owned it. High heels. Soft lighting. White blazer. Zero expression. For a second, I thought maybe I'd imagined everything. Maybe I'd lost it. Maybe I was just some unhinged ex-husband clinging to a decade-old heartbreak like it was a compass. But then she sat down across from me, knees crossed, chin slightly tilted, and said the most calculated sentence I've ever heard in my life. I was hoping you'd have the decency to stay gone. Not I missed you. Not how did you find me. Not even why are you doing this. Just that. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Because it proved everything I'd suspected. I wasn't a person to her. I was a variable. A wild card she forgot to eliminate. A loose thread she had once stitched into the hem of her story, now dangling in full view. She looked annoyed. I looked free. I didn't ask for an apology. I gave her an offer. You can leave right now, I said. I'll disappear again. I'll burn the folder. I'll vanish like you always wanted me to. But only if you give me one thing. She didn't speak. But her eyes narrowed like she was calculating risk. I want the truth. Not the rehearsed version. Not the social media eulogy. The real story. Why did you do it? Why erase me? Why build an entire fake narrative around a man who never hurt you? She leaned back in the chair, took a breath, and for a moment, just one flicker of a moment, she looked almost human. Because you made me feel small. That stunned me. I think I forgot how to breathe. You never yelled. Never cheated. Never lied. But you made me feel like I wasn't enough. Because you were content. And I was bored. And I didn't know how to grow without destroying something. She folded her arms. Looked away. So, I turned you into a story. It was easier to mourn you than to explain you. That's when I knew. She didn't deserve to ruin me twice. I stood up. Dropped the folder on the table. I'm not here to blackmail you. I'm not here to hurt you. I just wanted to know if I was crazy. You're not, she whispered. I nodded. And walked out. But not before saying one last thing. You should be very careful, Jory. Because you're not afraid of being exposed. You're afraid of being irrelevant. And someday soon, someone else will see through you the way I finally did. And you won't be able to bury them. She didn't respond. She just stared down at the folder, like it might start burning if she blinked. It's been 6 months since that night. I moved to a coastal town, started teaching, grew a beard, adopted a cat named Mercury. I write a little, journal a lot. I even started dating again, a woman who doesn't flinch when I tell her about the worst parts of my life. I don't follow Jory anymore. Don't check her page. Don't say her name out loud. She still has her followers, her speeches, her carefully curated resilience. But I have something she never will. Peace. Because I faced the person who tried to bury me. And I walked away alive.